It was supposed to be the holiday of a lifetime, the kind people dream about but never quite believe will happen to them. Our company had just crossed the $10 billion mark on the US stock market, and that night was meant to be more than a celebration. It was meant to be proof. Proof that everything our father had built with his bare hands had not only survived after his death, but had grown into something even bigger than any of us could have imagined. The house was glowing with light, laughter, and the clinking of crystal glasses. Every room hummed with success. Business partners, old family friends, executives, investors, all dressed in elegance, all smiling as though the future belonged to us. And maybe for a few hours it did. I remember standing near the grand piano with a half-finished glass of champagne in my hand, smiling at a joke I barely heard, when I felt her presence before I saw her. My twin sister, Seo-yeon. She stepped into the light holding a glass of red wine, but something about her made my stomach tighten instantly. She looked beautiful, as always, composed, graceful, impossible to ignore, but there was a stillness in her face that did not belong in a room like that. No smile, no sparkle in her eyes, no trace of the woman everyone thought they knew. Just tension, a shadow wrapped in silk. She stopped beside me and leaned close as though she didn't want anyone else to hear. She whispered something in my ear. I caught only fragments of it over the music and the chatter. My brows tightened. I turned to look at her properly. Seo-yeon, are you okay? She swallowed hard and whispered again, this time more clearly. Can we talk? There was something in her voice that made the air around me change. It wasn't panic exactly, it was worse. It was the sound of someone trying very hard not to fall apart in public. I set my glass down immediately and forced a smile toward the guests around us. Excuse me for a moment. I followed her upstairs, away from the crowd, away from the music, away from the warm golden lights of celebration. The further we walked, the quieter it became, until the laughter downstairs sounded like it belonged to another world entirely. We stopped in one of the private sitting rooms on the upper floor. The moment the door closed, my sister broke. Tears spilled down her face so suddenly, so violently, that for a second I just stared at her in shock. Then I moved toward her at once, grabbing her shoulders, pulling her into my arms. Hey, hey, I whispered, holding her tightly. Sis, what's wrong? Her body shook against mine. This is supposed to be a happy night, I said softly, brushing her hair back as I pulled away just enough to look at her face. Is it, Dad? I asked. I understand. You wish he was here with us. I miss him too. God, I wish he were here tonight. He would have been so proud of us. She shook her head. It's not about Dad, my twin sister replied. My heart dropped. Then what is it? She covered her mouth with trembling fingers, but the sob that escaped her was raw and broken. I had seen Seo-yeon angry. I had seen her cold. I had seen her fierce, stubborn, proud. But this? This was different. This was fear. I took both her hands in mine. You know we don't keep secrets from each other, I said. We made that promise when we were little, remember? No matter what happens, no matter how bad it gets, we have always told each other the truth. She looked at me then, really looked at me. And in her eyes I saw something that made my blood run cold. Guilt. I did something, she whispered. The words landed between us like shattered glass. My fingers tightened around hers. What do you mean you did something? She looked toward the door, as if even the walls might betray her, then back at me. I didn't know who else to tell. Her voice was barely audible now. I think I'm in danger. For a moment I couldn't speak. The entire world seemed to narrow into the space between her face and mine. What danger? I asked quietly. She shook her head again, tears spilling faster now. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, and now I think they know. They? I repeated. She nodded. I felt a chill crawl slowly down my spine. Seo-yeon, I said, forcing calm into my voice. Start from the beginning. Tell me everything. She opened her mouth to speak, and that was when we heard it. A soft knock at the door. Both of us froze. Not a loud knock, not impatient, just two careful taps. Controlled, intentional. Seo-yeon's face drained of colour so fast I thought she might faint. She gripped my wrist so tightly it hurt. Her lips parted, but when she spoke, her voice was nothing more than a terrified breath. That's them. Who? I asked. We both missed our dad. Not just in the quiet moments, but in the loud ones too. Like that night downstairs where laughter filled the house, but something still felt incomplete. He had been the kind of father people wrote stories about. Warm, gentle, and present. The kind who remembered the smallest details, our favourite desserts, the exact way we liked our tea, the songs we used to hum as children. He never needed a reason to show us love. He simply did. If we smiled, he smiled wider. If we dreamed, he dreamed bigger for us. And if we ever fell, he was always there before we hit the ground. Our mother was different, not unloving. She loved us, but in a different way. Just unyielding. Where our father was softness, she was structure. Where he gave freely, she demanded discipline. She believed the world would not be kind to two girls born into wealth and power, and so she refused to raise us gently. So she raised us ready. Every mistake was corrected, every weakness challenged, every shortcut punished with consequences. She didn't just want daughters, she wanted leaders. And somehow, between the two of them, we became both. I was the one who left, the restless one, the one who always looked beyond the horizon. When the scholarship came from the United States, it felt like destiny answering a question I had been too afraid to ask out loud. Tennis had always been my escape, my rhythm, my way of proving that I was more than just half of a powerful family name. I didn't just want to inherit something. I wanted to become something. And so I left. America gave me everything I thought I wanted: freedom, distance, a chance to build an identity that didn't begin with twin sister of Seo-yeon. I trained harder than I ever had, played harder, pushed my body beyond limits I didn't know existed. Eventually, I made it into the professional league. That was my dream, the American dream. For a while, it felt like I was winning at life. Yes, I did. Both my parents were proud of me. But success has a way of hiding the cracks. Years passed, nearly a decade, birthdays missed, family dinners replaced with video calls, celebrations reduced to messages across time zones. And through it all, Seo-yeon stayed. She never followed. Not to the US, not to the UK, not anywhere. Even though it had been our father's dream for both of us. At the time, I didn't question it. I told myself someone had to stay. Someone had to be close to home, to the company, to learn from Dad and prepare for the takeover, to our mother. But looking back now, I realized something else. She didn't stay behind. She chose to, and I never truly understood why. The injury changed everything. It wasn't dramatic at first, just a sharp pain during a match. Then another. Then one day, my body simply refused to keep going. Doctors called it temporary, manageable, recoverable. But athletes know the truth long before anyone else says it out loud. Something had shifted. And once that happened, nothing was ever quite the same again. I knew my career was over, so I stepped away, not completely, but enough to feel the silence, enough to hear the questions I had been outrunning for years. Who was I, without tennis, without distance, without the version of myself I had built overseas? That was when I came back to South Korea. Briefly, I told myself, just to recover, just to reset, just to breathe. But from the moment I stepped back into that house, I knew something had changed. Not just in me, in everything. The walls felt heavier, the conversations shorter, the silences louder. And Seo-yeon. She wasn't the same sister I had left behind. She smiled. She showed up. She played her role perfectly. But something in her eyes had hardened, like someone who had seen too much and said too little. And now, standing in that room upstairs, watching her shake in my arms, whispering that she was in danger. A cold realization settled deep in my chest. Maybe the real story wasn't what I had missed while I was away. Maybe the real story was what she had been living through. Alone. The knock at the door came again. This time, louder, more certain, more demanding. Seo-yeon's grip on my wrist tightened. "They can't see me like this," she whispered urgently. Her eyes searched mine, desperate, calculating, and then she said something that would change everything. "Switch with me." I froze. "What?" "Just for tonight," she said quickly. "Please, I'll explain everything later, but right now, I need you to be me." My heart started to race. "Seo-yeon, what are you talking about? Who's out there?" But she shook her head. "No time." Another knock. Heavier now, impatient. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "If they think I'm still here, I don't know what they'll do." Silence stretched between us. Then, "Please." And in that moment, I made the decision that would unravel everything we thought we knew. If you were in her position, would you swap places with your twin to face an abusive husband or walk away? Is this bravery or a mistake that could cost her everything? Don't go yet. Before we continue, please take a moment to like and share this K-drama story on your WhatsApp group chat and subscribe. Turn on your notification if you can. If you are excited for the next part, hit like and share. Tell us where you are watching this K-drama from. Let's crack on with this K-drama story titled, "I Swapped Places with My Sister. They Never Saw It Coming." Please, I don't want my daughters to see me like this. Seo-yeon's voice cracked as she wiped at her tears, but it was useless. They kept falling, fast, uncontrollable, like something buried for years had finally broken loose. My chest tightened. "No worries, I promised. I won't let them see you." She nodded and thanked me. "My daughters are downstairs. They think I just stepped away for a moment." Her son was away in the UK, she'd told me earlier. Safe, distant, and unaware. Lucky, because what I was seeing right now, no child should ever witness. She turned away from me, pressing her palms against her face as her shoulders shook again. I stepped closer, grounding her, steadying her. "You know we don't keep secrets from each other," I said again gently but firmly this time. "We made that promise when we were children, no matter what happens." Her breathing hitched. For a second, I thought she might shut down again, but then she finally opened up and said, "It's my husband." The words came out like a confession. Heavy, ashamed, broken. I frowned immediately. What's wrong with him? Is he okay? Even as I said it, something in me already knew that wasn't the right question. "I noticed you came alone tonight," I added. "I thought he was going to join you later." That was when she broke completely. Not just tears this time. Pain. Years of it. She grabbed onto me like she was drowning, her voice trembling as the truth finally spilled out. "He's been hurting me." Everything inside me went still. "What do you mean, hurting you?" Her hands trembled as she pulled back just enough to look at me. There were faint marks along her wrist, ones I hadn't noticed before, or maybe ones I hadn't allowed myself to see. "For years," she whispered. "It didn't start like this. It was small at first. Control, questions, then demands." My jaw tightened. "What kind of demands?" "Money." The word landed hard. "How much?" I asked quietly. She let out a hollow laugh that broke halfway through. At first, nothing we couldn't ignore. Gifts, transfers, investments that never existed. Her eyes dropped. But it kept growing. My stomach twisted, and when I tried to say no, she continued, her voice shaking. "He would lock me indoors, sometimes for hours, sometimes overnight." I felt something dark rise in my chest. And then he started hitting me. Then the silence. It was heavy and suffocating. Every word felt like it was carving something into my bones. "He threatened me," she added. "Says if I ever tell anyone, he'll destroy everything and stage my disappearance and death as suicide." "What? Your husband? Minjun threatening to kill you after all you've done for him?" I pulled her back into my arms, but this time it wasn't just comfort, it was restraint. Because anger like this, it needed somewhere to go. "How much does he want this time?" I asked, my voice lowered now, controlled and dangerous. She hesitated. Then she said, $2 million. I pulled back so fast I almost lost my balance. "What? 2 million? Is he insane?" I snapped, my voice rising before I could stop it. "What does he need that kind of money for? Did you even ask him?" Her silence answered me. Of course she had. And of course he hadn't given her the truth. I exhaled slowly, forcing my mind to think, not react. "Okay," I said, pacing slightly now. "Fine. We'll give him the money. On one condition." She looked up at me, desperate, searching. "We're leaving for the vacation tomorrow evening," I continued. "Half goes into his account in 3 days, the other half when we return." It was controlled, measured, strategic. A way to buy time, a way to keep him contained. But Seo-yeon shook her head immediately. "No. No. He won't accept that." My eyes narrowed. "What do you mean he won't accept it?" "He wants everything up front," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He said if he doesn't get the full amount, he's not going anywhere." A pause. Then the part that made my blood run cold. "And neither are the children." The room shifted. Everything sharpened. This wasn't about money. This was leverage, and this was blackmail. I stepped closer to her, my voice now steady in a way that surprised even me. "Go and tell him something for me." She hesitated. "What?" I held her gaze. "Tell your husband Minjun exactly what I said. Half in 3 days, the other half when we get back." "And if he refuses?" she asked. My lips pressed into a thin line. "Then he doesn't come, but I promise your daughters will be on that cruise ship, because it's already booked." There was silence. It was heavy and final, but deep down, I already knew. Men like him didn't negotiate. They escalated. Another knock echoed through the door, louder this time, impatient, demanding. Then we heard his voice. Seo-yeon's hand found mine again. "He's here," she whispered. I turned slowly toward the door. Something inside me had shifted. Not fear, not hesitation. Something colder, more precise. "Then it's time," I said quietly. Her fingers tightened. "For what?" I looked back at her, at my sister, at her tears, at the years she had carried alone, endured her abusive husband, Minjun. And then I said the words that would change both our lives forever. "For him to meet the wrong twin." Please like, share, and subscribe to promote and support our YouTube channel. We would really appreciate your comments, opinions, and answers to our questions below. Please share your thoughts. Do you think she's making the right decision? Or stepping into danger? What would you do if your sister told you she was in danger? Leave your comments below. Let's work together to educate our young girls, support our women, and end abusive relationships. Seo-yeon and I had always been identical, not just similar. Identical. The kind that confused teachers, friends, even our own parents. There were moments growing up when they would call one name and expect the other to answer. We used to laugh about it as children, turning it into a game. Switching places, finishing each other's sentences, living in each other's shadows when it suited us. Back then, it was harmless. Now, it was survival. That night, after I finally calmed her breathing and steadied her shaking hands, something inside me locked into place. A decision. Cold. Clear. Irreversible. "I've got you," I told her quietly. "And this time, I meant more than comfort. The moment she left the room to compose herself before returning to her daughters, I pulled out my phone. "Seo-yeon," I said, the second my assistant answered. "I need you to find out what my sister's signature perfume is. The exact brand, the exact scent." There was a pause on the other end. "Ma'am, now?" "Yes, now." No explanations, no hesitation, just execution, because this wasn't just about looking like Seo-yeon. I had to be her. The way she moved, the way she spoke, the way she smelled, every detail mattered. Because the man I was about to face was a man who had lived with her, watched her, controlled her. Men like that noticed everything. I stood there alone for a moment after the call ended, staring at my reflection in the mirror. Same face, same eyes, same features. But tonight, one of us would become the other, and one man would learn. He had chosen the wrong woman to break. His name was Min-jun, and I already hated him. Not the shallow kind of anger, not the kind that fades, the kind that settles deep. The kind that waits, because any man who raised his hand against my sister, any man who thought fear was power, had already crossed a line he could never walk back from. "Abusive men don't deserve mercy," I muttered under my breath, "especially not in this family." Later that night, my phone buzzed. A message from Seo-yeon. He agreed. I read it twice, and then again. Half in 3 days, half after the trip. I exhaled slowly. "Good," I whispered. But something about it didn't sit right. Men like him didn't compromise easily. They controlled. They demanded. They escalated. So why agree? Because he was planning something. I leaned back against the edge of the desk, my mind already running ahead. The cruise, the isolation, the distance from everything familiar. It wasn't just a vacation anymore. It was a stage. And whatever Min-jun had planned, he believed Seo-yeon would be the one stepping onto it. He was wrong. During my years in the United States, my life hadn't been all discipline and tournaments. There had been distractions. One of them had changed me in ways I didn't fully appreciate until now. He was a 6-time Olympic gold medalist in Taekwondo. A man built like precision itself. Controlled, focused, unforgiving in the ring, but patient outside of it. We dated briefly, but what he left me with was more valuable than the relationship itself. He taught me how to read intention, how to anticipate movement, how to protect myself without hesitation, not just physically, mentally. "Most people freeze when they're afraid," he once told me during a late-night training session. "You won't, because you'll already know what comes next." At the time, it felt like just another lesson, another skill. Something useful for late nights out, crowded events, unfamiliar spaces. But now it felt like preparation. I had watched him train women too, executives, leaders, women who carried power in boardrooms but needed to learn how to carry it in their bodies. He used to say, "Confidence isn't loud, it's controlled." And control was exactly what I needed now. I walked back to the mirror, studied my reflection again. Then I adjusted my posture, my expression, my breathing. I softened my gaze slightly, lowered my shoulders, tilted my head the way Seo-yeon always did when she was trying to appear agreeable, vulnerable, safe. I held it for a moment, then smiled. Not my smile, hers. Perfect. A quiet knock came at the door. "Ma'am?" Seo-a's voice. "Come in." She stepped inside, holding a small box. I found it, her perfume. I took it from her, opening it slowly. The scent hit me instantly. Floral, soft, elegant, familiar. I sprayed a small amount on my wrist, closed my eyes, and for a second, it felt like standing next to my sister again. By tomorrow evening, I wouldn't just be standing next to her. I would be her. I placed the bottle down carefully and looked up. "Prepare everything for the trip," I said calmly. "No mistakes." "Yes, Mom." She hesitated slightly. "Is there anything else?" I paused. Then, "Yes, My voice dropped, quieter now. Make sure no one knows about this. Not yet. She nodded and left. Alone again, I picked up my phone and stared at Seo-yeon's message one last time. He agreed. A slow, knowing smile formed on my lips. Good, I whispered, because I'm counting on it. Out at sea. There would be no interruptions, no witnesses, no easy exits, just him and the woman he thought he owned. Only this time, he wouldn't be facing Seo-yeon. He'd be facing me. And by the time the cruise was over, Minjun would learn something he had never understood before. Some women break, and some women break back. The sea was too calm. That was the first thing I noticed on board the cruise ship. Endless blue stretching in every direction, the kind of beauty people paid fortunes to experience. The cruise ship cut smoothly through the water, its luxury almost obscene. Glass balconies, polished decks, laughter echoing from every corner. To everyone else, it was paradise. To me, it felt like a trap. I stood at the edge of the deck, fingers lightly gripping the railing, the wind brushing against my skin. The scent of Seo-yeon's perfume lingered around me. It was soft, floral, and unmistakably her. I had practiced everything. I mean everything about her mannerisms, everything about being Seo-yeon. Her posture, her tone, her pauses, even the way she held a glass from the outside. I was Seo-yeon. Enjoying the view? The voice came from behind me, smooth, familiar, and instantly unwelcome. I didn't turn immediately, and instead I let a small, controlled smile form, just the way she would. Then I turned. It was Minjun, my sister's husband. He stood there in a tailored navy suit, hands casually in his pockets as though he didn't have a single dark secret in the world. His expression was calm. A bit too calm. This was the moment I had been waiting for. Observant, like a man who enjoyed watching before making his move. It's beautiful, I said softly, my voice. No, her voice. It was measured and gentle, non-threatening. His eyes lingered on me longer than they should have. Scanning, reading, calculating. Something feels different, he said. My heart skipped once, then steadied. Different, I echoed, tilting my head slightly. Really? I asked, trying very hard, pretending to be his wife, my twin sister, because I had practiced her mannerisms. He stepped closer. Not too close, just enough to close the distance. Yeah, he said quietly. You. Silence stretched between us. This was it. The first test. I let out a soft breath and gave a faint smile. Maybe I'm just relaxed, I said. We don't get moments like this often, I said to ease the tension and distract him. His gaze didn't move, didn't soften, didn't believe me. You've been avoiding me, he said. Not a question. A statement. I looked down briefly, letting a flicker of hesitation show. Just enough to feel real. I've just been busy, I replied. He stepped closer again. This time, too close. His hand reached out suddenly. My body reacted before my mind could stop it. A sharp and instinctive shift. Barely noticeable, I thought, but enough. His hand paused mid-air. His eyes narrowed. There it was. A mistake. Seo-yeon, his wife, would have flinched due to years of abuse. But I didn't. She would have frozen as he reached out to me. I didn't. She would have accepted the touch differently. But I didn't. The silence that followed was heavier than anything before it. Since when? He said slowly. Do you move like that? My pulse quickened, but my face remained calm. Minjun was indeed very observant. And smart. Of course, a smart crook. I let out a soft laugh, it light and dismissive. You're imagining things, I said, brushing past him gently. Maybe you've had too much to drink already. But as I moved past him, I felt it. His gaze, sharp, suspicious, locked onto my back. He knew. He suspected something unusual. He probably already knew I wasn't his wife. Not everything, though, but enough. And as I walked away, one thought settled deep in my chest. This wasn't going to be as simple as pretending. Behind me, his voice followed, low, almost amused. Seo-yeon? I stopped, slowly turned. His lips curved into a faint smile. But his eyes were something else entirely. Let's not play games on this trip, he said. A pause, then, I always win. For a second, just a second, I saw it. The man my sister had been living with. And instead of fear, something else rose in me. Resolve. I met his gaze, held it, and smiled. Not her smile, not this time, mine. We'll see. And in that moment, the game truly began. Don't go yet. Please like, share, and subscribe to support the growth of our YouTube channel. Do you think Min-jun already knew she wasn't Seo-yeon? Or was that just suspicion? Would you have been able to keep the act, or would you have slipped under that pressure? If someone looked at you like that, would you stay calm or panic? Please share your thoughts and leave your comments below. Let's crack on with the story. The ocean was quieter that night, darker, endless. I stood alone on the private balcony of the cabin, the wind colder now, sharper against my skin. The kind of cold that didn't just touch you. It warned you. Something wasn't right. Min-jun had agreed too easily. That thought hadn't left me since yesterday. Men like him didn't compromise. They cornered, they demanded, they took. So why agree to split the money, unless the money wasn't the real objective? I stepped back into the cabin, the soft golden lighting doing nothing to ease the tension crawling under my skin. The room was immaculate. Too immaculate. Everything in place and everything controlled, just like him. My eyes moved slowly across the space, and then his jacket, carelessly draped over the chair. That alone felt wrong. Min-jun wasn't careless. I approached it slowly, paused, listened. Nothing. Carefully, I slipped my hand into the inner pocket and pulled something out. A second phone. My breath slowed. Of course, I whispered. It wasn't locked. That was his first mistake, or maybe his arrogance. I opened it, scrolled, messages, numbers saved without names, transactions, photos, and then one message thread, pinned. I opened it. My heart stopped. Transfer confirmed. Once funds complete, we proceed with removal. Removal? I scrolled further. Images, documents, a contract. My fingers tightened around the phone. It wasn't just extortion, it wasn't just abuse, it was a setup. Insurance policies, multiple. All under Seo-yeon's name, recently updated. High value, very high. Beneficiary, Min-jun. My stomach dropped. This wasn't about $2 million. This was about something much bigger. He wasn't trying to control her. He was planning to erase her. A sound behind me, the door. I turned. Too late. Min-jun stood there, silent, watching. For a moment neither of us spoke. His eyes dropped slowly, to the phone in my hand. And just like that, the air changed. You shouldn't touch things that don't belong to you. His voice was calm, too calm. I didn't move, didn't flinch. Instead, I lifted my gaze to meet his. And you shouldn't plan your wife's death so carelessly. Silence. Then he smiled, not shocked, not defensive, amused. I was wondering when you'd figure it out, he said. My grip tightened. You're not even denying it? He stepped forward, slow, measured. Why would I? He replied. You're smarter than I gave you credit for. Something snapped inside me. You think you're walking away from this? I said, my voice low now, dangerous. You think you can just... He moved fast, too fast. His hand shot out, grabbing my wrist, slamming the phone against the table as it slipped from my grip. Pain shot up my arm. Careful, he said quietly, leaning in close. You're starting to sound different. My heart pounded, but my face, steady. I'm done being afraid of you, I said. And that was the second mistake. His grip tightened, harder. No, he said, his voice dropping, something darker slipping through now. You're forgetting something. He leaned closer, so close I could feel his breath. You don't get to decide when you're done. My body reacted. Not fear, training. I twisted my wrist sharply, shifted my weight, stepped back, and struck fast, precise, controlled. His grip broke instantly for the first time. Minjun looked surprised. Real surprise. You, he muttered, stepping back slightly. I straightened slowly. Calm, collected. You picked the wrong woman, I said. Silence filled the cabin. Heavy, electric. His eyes narrowed, not confused anymore, not suspicious. Certain. You're not her, he said quietly. There it was. The truth. I didn't answer. Didn't need to. A slow smile spread across his face. Interesting, he said. A pause. Then, a quiet laugh. This just got a lot more fun. My jaw tightened. Fun, I repeated. He stepped closer again. Not attacking this time. Studying. If you're not Seo-yeon, he said, tilting his head slightly, then that means she told someone. His eyes locked onto mine. And that means a dangerous pause. I'll have to deal with both of you. The threat hung in the air. Cold. Final. But I didn't step back. Didn't break eye contact. Instead, I smiled. You're not leaving this ship the way you planned. Silence. Then he chuckled, low, unbothered. We'll see. But this time. It didn't sound like a promise. It sounded like a challenge. And somewhere deep inside me, I welcomed it. The moment the door closed behind him, I pressed it. The device was small, barely noticeable, hidden beneath the edge of the table where my fingers rested just seconds before he walked in. A single tap. Silent, precise, recording. And not just recording, streaming every word, every movement, every threat, sent directly to two people, a private detective and a security guard I had hired before stepping onto this ship. Insurance, because I didn't trust this man. And more importantly, I didn't trust this situation. Seo-yeon didn't know. I hadn't told her, not because I didn't trust her, but because if something went wrong, she needed to remain clean, untouched by whatever came next. Now, it was just me and him. Minjun stepped fully into the cabin, then slowly, deliberately. He turned the lock. Click. The sound echoed louder than it should have. Final. He slipped the key into his pocket and looked at me, smiling. Now, he said calmly, we can talk properly. The air shifted instantly. No more pretending, no more masks, just truth. You're not Seo-yeon, he said, walking slowly across the room. I didn't respond, didn't deny it. There was no point anymore. He chuckled under his breath. I knew something was off the moment you didn't flinch. His eyes scanned me again. This time, not with curiosity, but with calculation. So, he continued, tilting his head slightly, which one are you? I held his gaze. Steady, unshaken. The one you should be worried about. A pause. Then, he laughed. Not loud, not wild, controlled, dangerous. I like you, he said. You're bold. He stepped closer. Slow, measured, like a predator closing distance. But bold people, he added quietly, make mistakes. I didn't move, didn't step back, because fear was exactly what he wanted, and I wasn't going to give it to him. Then he stopped, just a few feet away. His expression changed, something darker, something colder. I hope you brought your body bag, he said. Silence. Then he smiled, wider now, crueler. Did you? My heart slowed, not raced, slowed. Because this was the moment. He leaned in slightly, lowered his voice. Because I only brought one for your sister, he added, almost casually. A beat. And when I'm done with you. His eyes locked onto mine. She's next. Silence filled the room. Heavy, unforgiving, but inside me, something snapped into place. Not fear, not panic, clarity. Because everything I needed, he had just said out loud, on record, streaming. I let out a slow breath. Then I smiled, and that caught him off guard. "What's funny?" he asked, narrowing his eyes. I tilted my head slightly, calm, composed. "You talk too much," I said. His expression darkened. "Do you really think you're walking out of here?" he snapped. I didn't answer immediately, and instead, I took one slow step forward, then another, closing the distance this time. His eyes flickered, just slightly. "Good. Let me ask you something," I said quietly. A pause. "What happens when you realize you've already lost?" Confusion. Just for a second, then anger. He moved, fast, grabbing for me. But I was faster. I stepped aside, redirected his momentum. Struck, clean, precise. He stumbled back. Crashing into the edge of the table, the room exploded into motion. This wasn't a confrontation anymore. It was a fight. And for the first time, Minjun wasn't in control. Outside the cabin, footsteps, faint, distant, getting closer, inside. The storm had already begun. Then came the breaking point. Minjun didn't hesitate. The moment he regained his balance, something in him snapped. Whatever calm, calculated control he had been wearing shattered into something raw and violent. He rushed at me, fast. Too fast for most people, but not for me, because my taekwondo defense skills kicked in immediately in self-defense. His hand shot forward, grabbing my shoulder, slamming me back against the wall. The impact knocked the air from my lungs, a sharp burst of pain radiating through my back. For a split second, darkness flickered at the edges of my vision. Then instinct took over. I twisted sharply, driving my elbow toward his ribs. It connected. Hard. I felt it. The dull, sickening thud of bone-meeting force. He grunted but didn't let go. Instead, his grip tightened, fingers digging into my arm as he forced me sideways, trying to overpower me with sheer weight and aggression. "You think this changes anything?" he snarled, his voice low, breath hot and uneven. "You think you can stop me?" I didn't answer. I moved. A quick shift of my footing. A pivot. A strike. My palm drove upward toward his jaw, sharp, controlled. His head snapped back slightly, but he recovered faster than I expected. Too fast. He lunged again. And this time, he got control. His hand clamped around my wrist, twisting it painfully behind my back as he forced me forward onto the edge of the table. The wood dug into my ribs, knocking the breath out of me again. Pain shot through my arm, white-hot, blinding. "You're not her," he hissed into my ear. "But you'll break just the same." I clenched my teeth, refused to cry out. Because even now, even pinned, even hurting, I wasn't done. I shifted my weight again, ignoring the pain, letting my body move the way it had been trained to. Flow, not force. I drove my heel backward. It connected. His grip faltered just enough. I twisted free, spinning out of his hold and creating space between us. My chest rose and fell quickly now, breath uneven but controlled. Minjun stepped back, and for the first time, he didn't look composed. There was blood. A thin line running from the corner of his lip, another forming along his brow. He touched it, looked at his fingers. Then at me, something in his expression changed. Not anger, not frustration and respect. Twisted, dangerous. "You've been trained," he said quietly. I said nothing. He smiled again, but it wasn't amusement this time. It was something darker. "Good," he muttered. "That makes this worth it." He charged again. This time, no hesitation, no restraint. We collided. The room erupted into chaos. Furniture scraped violently across the floor, the table tipped, crashing sideways, the lamp shattered, glass scattering across the polished surface like ice. He was stronger, no question, but I was faster. We moved in sharp bursts, strike, block, counter. My training kicked in fully now, every motion precise, every reaction calculated, but even then, he was relentless. His hand caught my collar, dragging me down with him as we crashed to the floor. Pain exploded through my shoulder. For a moment, he had the advantage. His weight pressed down, pinning me. His forearm tightened across my throat. "You should have stayed out of this," he growled. My vision blurred. The pressure, too much. Then footsteps, faint at first, then louder, closer. Min-jun heard them too. His head snapped toward the door, just for a second, and that was all I needed. I drove my knee upward. Hard. He jerked back, losing balance just as. The door burst open, voices shouting. "Security!" Hands grabbed him, multiple, dragging him back. He fought, of course he did, violently, desperately. "Get off me!" he roared, thrashing against them. But there were too many, 2 uniformed security officers, and behind them, the man I had hired, calm, focused, prepared. They forced Min-jun down, pinning his arms behind his back as he struggled, breath ragged, blood now more visible across his face. "Hold him!" one of them shouted. Metal clicked, handcuffs tight. Final, for the first time since this began. Min-jun was restrained, still breathing hard, still glaring, still dangerous, but contained. I pushed myself up slowly from the floor, every muscle protesting, every movement reminding me just how close that had been. My eyes landed on the table, his phone. I walked over, picked it up, turned, and walked straight toward him. He watched me, silent now, but his eyes still burning. I stopped in front of him, held up the phone, the screen still open, still damning. "Do you recognize this?" I asked calmly. He said nothing. Didn't need to. I stepped closer, lowered my voice. "You planned everything," I said. "The money, the insurance, the timing." A pause. "Her death." Something flickered in his expression. Not denial, not regret, just calculation. I leaned in slightly, just enough for only him to hear. "You're going away for a very long time." Silence, and then, slowly, he smiled. "Even now, even here." And something about that smile told me this wasn't over. Not yet. The sirens came before the silence. Distant at first, faint, almost swallowed by the endless rhythm of the ocean, but growing louder with every passing second. Inside the cabin, the air had shifted. What had been chaos moments ago now felt suspended, paused, like the world itself was holding its breath. Min-jun knelt on the floor, restrained, his hands cuffed tightly behind his back. Blood traced slowly from the corner of his mouth, dark against his skin. His breathing had steadied, but his eyes were alive, calculating, waiting. I stood a few feet away, still holding his phone, my pulse gradually settling into something colder, sharper, control. The door opened again. This time, authority stepped in. 2 police officers entered, followed by a third. Their presence filled the room immediately, firm, composed, undeniable. One of them took in the scene at a glance. Broken furniture, shattered glass, displaced silence, and at the center of it all, Min-jun. "What happened here?" the lead officer asked, voice steady, eyes moving between us. Before I could speak, Min-jun laughed, low, breathless. "Finally," he said. "Took you long enough." The officer frowned slightly. "Sir, you need to remain calm." "I am calm," Min-jun replied, lifting his head slowly. "I've been waiting for this." Something in his tone made my chest tighten. The officer turned to me. "Ma'am, are you injured?" "I'm fine," I said, my voice controlled. She attacked me." The words cut through the room like a blade. Silence followed, heavy, immediate. I turned slowly, looked at him. Min-jun met my gaze and smiled. "She came onto me," he continued, his voice now measured, deliberate, aggressively. "When I refused, she lost control. The officer's eyes flicked between us again. Sir, you're saying she initiated this altercation? Minjun nodded. Calm. Convincing. She's been acting strange since we got on this ship, he added. Not herself. I thought maybe stress or alcohol. But tonight... He let the sentence hang, then shook his head slightly. She threatened me. My grip tightened around the phone. Threatened you? The officer asked. Yes, he said quietly. She told me if I didn't do what she wanted, she'd destroy me, my career, my life. A pause. And when I refused, he added, lifting his cuffed hands slightly, she attacked me. The audacity of it and the precision, the performance. For a moment, I almost admired it. Almost. Because it was good. Too good. The kind of lie built on fragments of truth. Carefully arranged, dangerously believable. The officer turned to me again. Ma'am? I exhaled slowly, stepped forward. You're hearing one version, I said calmly. Minjun's smile widened slightly. And what's yours? The officer asked. I held up the phone. My version, I said quietly, is recorded. Silence. Then, movement. The private investigator stepped forward. We have both audio and video, he said, voice steady. Recorded and transmitted in real time. Minjun's expression shifted, just slightly. There's no need for speculation, the investigator continued. Everything that happened in this cabin is documented. The room seemed to tighten. The officer nodded once. Play it! The recording began, at first. Just voices, Minjun's, clear, unfiltered. I hope you brought your body bag. The room went still. Then, the rest followed. Every word, every threat, every intention. I only brought one for your sister. The officers exchanged a glance. Minjun didn't move, didn't speak, but his jaw tightened. Then, the footage, grain-free, sharp, unforgiving. The moment he lunged, the force, the control, the violence, and then the struggle, the truth. When it ended, silence returned. But this time, it was different, heavier, final. The lead officer stepped forward slowly, his gaze fixed firmly on Minjun. Sir, he said, voice now colder. You are under arrest for assault, coercion, and conspiracy. The words landed with weight. Minjun let out a slow breath. Then he laughed, not loudly and not wildly, soft, controlled. You think this ends here? He said quietly. The officer didn't respond, but I did. Yes, I said. Minjun turned his head toward me, and for the first time, there was something new in his eyes, not control, not arrogance, recognition. You still don't get it, he said softly. My stomach tightened. Get what? I asked. He leaned back slightly despite the cuffs, despite the restraint. This? He said. This is small. You think I was doing this alone? Minjun laughed. Then silence. The investigator spoke. He's not. All eyes turned. The investigator stepped forward, his expression now more serious than before. We've been tracking financial activity linked to him for months, he said. Offshore accounts, shell companies, unregistered transfers. My grip tightened. It's bigger than domestic abuse, he continued. Bigger than insurance fraud. A pause. This is part of a network. The word hung in the air. Network. Organized, he added, structured, and very well protected. The room shifted again. Suddenly, this wasn't just about Seo-yeon anymore. It wasn't just about revenge or survival. It was something else entirely. Something deeper, darker, and bigger than I thought. Minjun smiled again. Not defeated. He looked satisfied. You see, he said quietly. Then his eyes locked onto mine. You stepped into something you don't understand. Something bigger than you and I. A chill moved slowly through me. But I didn't look away. And I didn't step back. Because whatever this was, I was already in it, and there was no turning back now. Weeks passed, but nothing moved, not forward, not backward, just suspended. The world outside pretended everything was normal. The markets continued to rise. The company remained strong. Meetings were held, decisions made, smiles exchanged. But beneath it all, something had shifted. The first sign came quietly, almost unnoticed. The lead investigator on the case. Gone. Transferred, they said. No warning, no explanation, no farewell. Just gone. I stood in my office that morning staring out at the city skyline, the words echoing in my head like something unfinished. Transferred. That's not normal, I said. Behind me, Seo-yeon stood near the desk, arms folded tightly across her chest. She hadn't been sleeping. I could see it in her eyes, tired, guarded, still carrying the weight of everything that had happened. Nothing about this is normal anymore, she replied quietly. She was right, because it didn't stop there. The prosecution slowed. Files that should have moved didn't. Evidence that should have accelerated the case stalled. The first trial date postponed. Administrative delay. The second postponed again. Scheduling conflict. Excuses carefully worded, conveniently timed. And with every delay, the silence grew louder. Then came the security. At first, it felt excessive, unnecessary. 2 guards became 4, then 6. Home, office, transit. Every entrance monitored. Every movement tracked. Every shadow questioned. It wasn't protection anymore. It was containment. One evening, as we sat in the living room, the same one that had once been filled with laughter and celebration, I noticed it. The quiet, not peaceful, not calm, watching. You feel it too, don't you? Seo-yeon asked. I looked at her. Yes. A pause. We're not just being protected, she said. No, I replied. We both knew the truth. We were being watched. The call came later that night. Unknown number. I answered anyway. Silence. Then a voice, distorted, calm. You should let this go. My grip tightened around the phone. Who is this? I asked. A pause. You've already done enough, the voice continued. Pushing further will only make things complicated. My jaw tightened. Is that a threat? A soft chuckle. No, the voice replied. A beat. It's advice. The line went dead. I stood there for a long moment, still, silent, then slowly lowered the phone. Seo-yeon was watching me. What did they say? I exhaled. They want us to walk away. Her expression hardened. And if we don't? I met her gaze. They'll make sure we regret it. The room fell quiet again. But this time, there was no fear, just understanding. Minjun's voice echoed in my mind. You stepped into something you don't understand. I turned toward the window again, looked out at the city, at the lights, at the illusion of control. He was right. This was bigger than him, bigger than us. A system, a network, a structure built to protect itself. And now, we were in its way. Behind me, Seo-yeon spoke. What do we do? I didn't answer immediately, because the truth was, there were only 2 options. Walk away, or go deeper. I turned back to her, and for the first time since this began, I saw it. Not fear, not hesitation, strength. The same strength our mother had built into us. The same fire our father had believed in. We finish this, I said quietly. A pause, no matter how big it is. Silence. Then, she nodded, and just like that, the decision was made, somewhere far beyond what we could see. Something shifted, because the moment we chose not to back down, we stopped being targets and became a problem. This is just the beginning. Watch out for season 2 of this story. Don't go yet. If powerful people were trying to silence you, would you walk away or fight harder? Would you trust the system Or start your own investigation? Do you think the case is being delayed or deliberately buried? Please share your thoughts and drop your comments below. To be continued in Season 2, please like, share and subscribe to support the growth of our YouTube channel.